Good morning, friends. Today, Sunday morning, I welcome you all in this webinar. And today, we are going to have a subject that is the study of Materia Medica to the report. Now, that when we have to apply the homeopathic principle, the applied aspect of this principle is basically through the Materia Medica and the report. So we must have an understanding between what is the relationship between the Materia Medica and Repertory and how much they are dependent on each other. When we have to learn medicines, when we have to understand about the medicines, the understanding has to be based on the way that we have created our mind. So now I am going to present, I am going to share my PPT so that we can have a better sharing about this topic. So the topic is study of Materia Medica through Repertory. Friends, we are aware that the Materia Medica has a very evolutionary phase it had underwent, and from Dr. Henneman's time and still today, the Materia Medica is being constructed. And side by side, we see the changes in the repertory, and the new repertories are also coming, new Materia Medica and coming. They run parallel to each other, and but learning medicines is very important. The vastness of the symptoms that is there in the Materia Medica. Each medicine having thousands of symptoms and their totality and the portrait drawing it becomes difficult when we have a clinical approach. So let us see how we can have a better understanding about the Materia Medica and the repertory. Then the homeopathic Materia Medica, what is the product of the highest wisdom that Dr. Henneman had created. The highest wisdom of that means is through the contribution of artificial human pharmacology as explored through healthy human beings, proving Henneman brought up the illness at the forefront of our existence at the humanistic experiencing experimental level to give the true meaning of the illness. Now, what has been earlier done? In earlier Materia Medica, and the difference between the Materia Medica and homeopathic Materia Medica is only that the homeopathic Materia Medica are those Materia Medica which includes the proving the curves found on the healthy human being, whereas the earlier Materia Medica where the mixture of many information, there are the chemical information, there are the properties, there are the analogical understanding, doctrine of signatures, many contributions, and the illness on which it has been observed. So now what is the difference? The difference is that homeopathic Materia Medica contains the pure nature of the symptoms. That what is actually there within that medicine. That is the only aspect and that we can understand. So we see that the homeopathic Materia Medica deviated from the earlier Materia Medica, and today homeopathic Materia Medica emerges as a basic understanding or basic data bank for the homeopathic system of the medicine. Now, this is a very beautiful quotation from AI. Medicine has nothing in the whole course of our history which in any way approaches the accomplishment of the man. Primarily a champion, and indeed the most brilliant champion of internal remedies, the imperfections and manifold unfruitfulness of which undertook the metamorphosis. So, what is medicine? And in the history of the history also, and he has his biography of Dr. Henneman made a beautiful remark on the medicines that it is the internal remedy, imperfections, and and there are many fruitful information and changes that have been brought. So this understanding is important for understanding the mathematics. We must see why the symptoms are there in our homeopathic mathematics and on which these symptoms have appeared. This is the reality. Because many a time, without understanding the reality, we may have the misapplications or wrong applications of the medicine. A medicine is related, directly related to the state of the health, the constitutions, and it is a very factor. So, and also that the single symptoms is not reflective of the patient totality. So, single symptoms, how much they are related to the individual, this is more important when we are selecting a medicine for the patient. And a specific object for the learning and teaching course is to identify the homeopathic remedy. Then data is obtained from the clinic to be utilized for the sake of nosological diagnosis. We will not only select a medicine, we have to identify what type of that suffering, what are the nosological diagnosis of that, and then discriminations between the pathogenic and non-pathogenic. In a patient, we find those types of the symptoms, pathogenic symptoms and non-pathogenic symptoms. So what are the differences? What are the basic relationship between these two? This has to be understood properly. So in understanding the value of symptoms, which serve purpose for the physical examinations of the patient. Many a times patients come and they narrate their symptoms, they tell their symptoms, but we have to understand the value of the symptoms through the physical examinations also. This is very important, and to understand the patient language relation to which the clinical and homeopathic mathematics. Now, language of the patient is there. It is quite different. The three languages we have to be aware of. The language that is told by the patient, he will be talking about in the own way. Then there are the language in the repertory. There are the language in the Materia Medica. So we have to act like a person who understands the three language of for the clinical purpose: the patient language, the medicine's language, Materia Medica language, and so we have to be a good translator to interpret the each and establish a relationship right from the patient symptoms to the Materia Medica symptoms and the repertory symptoms. Now, understanding non-verbal language and verbal language of the patient in the totality of symptoms. How many languages are there? The patient speaks only through the mouth. Their whole body speaks. So, how the language of the body and the language of the mouth that comes and how they are related, and phase considerations, acute examinations, acute or chronic and its correlations with homeopathic mathematics. So the patients comes in different stages, different phases. So some patients comes with that and tells you in a very exaggerated mode, and when there may be the acuteness which is getting converted into the chronic case. There may be the chronic case where the acute exaggerations are there, and and this has to be found. When we see a patient is suffering from the diarrhea, and at one time he has diarrhea and other time he has the constipation. So we don't have to look for the two rubrics, two symptoms. We have to look only for the one symptom, that the alternate constipation is alternating with the diarrhea. So many a time we get confused with this type of the understanding when it is found observed in the patient. When the constipation is there, one doctor tries to give medicines for the medicines to go away. And when the diarrhea is there, he is trying to. But this is not the way that that will find a solution. Then understanding the pattern of response of the behavior of the remedy. Each remedy has their own behavior, own pattern, and own personality. And this pattern has to be found similar to the patient's pattern. Similarity. The similarity is prime importance. Then evolving the portrait of the diseased individual through analysis, evaluation, and synthesis of adequate, accurate case identity. Okay, so these are the aspects that is very important for us to understand the relationship between the Mathematica and the Repertory and the homeopathic philosophy. After all, everything has to be done under the homeopathic philosophy, homeopathic principle, the guiding principle, the base principle under which our Mathematica has to function and the Repertory has to function. Using the concept of holistic science for the sake of perceiving the portrait of remedy, form, symbols, and metamorph. Now, holistic science means the patient as a whole, something which has the completeness. So every remedy has got its portrait. So we have to understand the portrait. Thousands of symptoms are there, but do they reflect the portrait? Until and they reflect the portrait, you cannot use that medicine for your practice. And teaching comparative mathematica from various angles. And so we must have the learning for the comparative value for the medicine in the different among the different medicines. So there we have the group study of the remedy. Then we have the enhanced selecting a medicine is not a difficult task, but making a research of the medicine for an individual patient is the main objective for the patient, for the physician. Uh, and that's why the medicines can be calculated on the basis of the calculator in the by any layperson. But when it comes to the consideration of the physicians, they make a evaluation and rationality why it is like that. So there must be the cause effect relationship between the symptoms present and applicability in the patient. Then infallible rules to acquire the knowledge of medicine laid down in the paragraph 153 of organism. Let us see the most important aspect of the that has been mentioned in the file number 153. The more striking, singular, uncommon, and peculiar characteristics, signs, and symptoms of the case of disease are chiefly and most solely to be kept in view. For if it is more particularly these that very similar one in the list of the symptoms of the selected medicine must correspond to in order to constitute it to the most suitable for effective use. Now, among so many symptoms, we have to collect it from the patient. So we have to find out what is the striking features in this, how it is different from others, how it is single from others, how it is uncommon, how it is characteristics is reflected only through the how it makes the difference. We are individualized. We select, we make a remark on about the person on the basis of his characteristic features. What is important? This man is very good. This man is very bad. This man has a good character. This man has a bad character. How we get that? We have to find out the specific things that brings an impact that you can have perceived in your mind. So this will help you in to the general and general understanding about the patient. There are many common symptoms which are like loss of appetite, headache, debility, restless. It is found in almost every patient, and they will not reflect the identity, the individuality of the patient. The individual, with the loss of appetite, why is the loss of appetite is there? Why and what for what things he is not wanting and what time he is wanting. So several factors and it is different in each patient. So restless sleep and similarly the debility is not a constant feature. It has to be individual. So these common symptoms of loss of appetite, headache, debility, restless, it has to be seen in a different way for each individual patient. Why it is like this? Why the loss of hospitality. And what is the beauty of the loss of self? What is the importance of loss of and of this particular features, common symptoms, and why it is again. So this is very and we can recognize the drugs only through this different nature of the characteristic feature of this. So now there is exists a direct linkage between the homeopathic Materia Medica and the repertory. The repertory has been evolved after the Materia Medica. Materia Medica constitutes the vastness of the symptoms for the individual. But to arrive and reach to that particular medicine, we have to use a compass. We have to use a system, and that system has been recognized by our master Dr. Element as the repertory. So how the repertory is linked with the Materia Medica, this is our main purpose. And how much this repertory is useful in selecting medicine and understanding the medicine. Both is important. Selecting a medicine and creating an imaginary portrait of the medicine, how it can improve our understanding about the medicine. After all, ultimate understanding about the medicine it comes only through the better understanding of the perception is important for the prescription. So perception and prescriptions are directly related, and this perception and prescription is better realized with the relationship of the repertory and the Materia Medica. Friends, symptoms taken from various Materia Medica for the medicines are compiled to constitute the repertory. How many Materia Medica are there? And each Materia Medica, there are some symptoms which may not be found in other Materia Medica of the small same medicine. So compilation work. Repertory is a type of the, primarily it was a compilation work. Then symptoms are converted into the rubric to provide precise information and the wider use. These symptoms, what type that? There are so many symptoms and they are presented in a different way. But their meanings are the same, but presentations are different. So when the meaning are the same and the presentation are different, the similarity comes through the rubric. So in repertory, the medicine symptoms are presented in the rubric form, and in the Materia Medica, the symptoms are in the form of the symptoms. So different medicines are grouped together under rubric to inform about the similarity between them. When you look at the repertory, you will find that under each rubric there are different medicines. And you may wonder why these two different medicines are there, because there is something commonness is there, and that commonness is important, and that will lead towards your understanding towards the particular medicine. Repertory has been derived from the Materia Medica, and repertory is the applied aspect of the Materia Medica. So what we say, the Materia Medica is a database, and repertory is the tools that where you can arrive at where through which you can enter through the Materia Medica. So 300, there are hundreds of Medica, and there are different styles which they are written and recognized always. When you look at the types of the medicines, it is not one type of the Materia Medica. No, it is not one. Some are commentary, some are e-notes, some are thematic. So many forms are there. But compiling it, and different styles are there. So it becomes difficult. So it requires an index system to derive a hierarchy of the symptoms for each of them. It becomes difficult to organize data out of them and constitute an image of the medicine through the Materia Medica. But when you have indexed it in a proper hierarchy, you can get a clarity will come to your mind. Retention of information is a prime objective in the medicine. No, when we study a medicine, how much we can have in our mind, how much we can store in our mind, and that is retained constitutes your memory, and you are prescribing on the basis of your memory. So retention is more important, and how. So it is important that you retain as much symptoms as much possible, and this is possible with the repertory only. Each person develops his her own systemic way to understand medicine. Now, we as a physician, we as a student, we as a practitioner of the homeopathy, we used to have the different way of learning and systematic Medica. We may study it in our own way. One common method is to summarize the key mental, physical, general symptoms along with the characteristic symptoms of an index card or sheet of paper. So it is called the memorizing, summarizing. Make a summary of that. And for that, there are many Mathematica available, keynotes, symptoms, synoptic key, so many Mathematica are there. Some people make mnemonic, some people make a mnemonic devices. Others may use medicines on characteristic basis. And one systematic way to learn about the medicine is a study in a group to discuss its most characteristic symptoms. So we have. I don't say that you summarize it, you memorize it. Memorizing and summarizing has the fixation, but when you have the mathematical evaluation, then you can have a better, wider application of your memory through the. So it is wider applications is required. Understanding is required to understand each and every medicine. So advantage. What is the advantage of having a repertory? We have a repertory in order to know what medicines or medicines we have for symptoms of this, as we cannot remember or write all symptoms of the drug. When the patient comes to us, we select the symptoms. We have a case study for this, and through that we acquire the symptoms. We get the symptoms, and that symptoms we have to depend on. In the drug proving, there are thousands of symptoms, and all of them are not found on the individual patient. So, in the individual patient is more important for us in the clinical purpose. So, this repertory helps you to arrive at the symptoms which are related to the drug proving. The repertory was never meant or intended to take place of the mathematics. Be careful, must understand that repertory will never take place of the Mathematica, because Mathematica is the final authority where you can get the meaning for each what medicines you have selected. It must never replace our constant study and user of habit. So one thing is very important. You must be a constant student, learning Mathematica every day, and you in a religious manner. That will help you and improve understanding about the Mathematica. If you don't make a habit of learning Mathematica, reading Mathematica, at least one medicine a day, or at least one part of the medicine in a day, you will not be able to perceive the symptoms of that medicine. Because memory is ever changing, it is increasing, and evolutionary stage of the memory is required to remain updated with the learning patterns. Dr. Bonnie has remarked, it is far more difficult for an unexperienced homeopathist to cure patients, even with the few symptoms without a repertory, because many remedies seems to correspond. So it is very much important for us to understand. We as a homeopath, we are always unexperienced in a particular case. We may have cured many cases, but we always remain unexperienced for an individual patient. So this is the reality that we must have in our mind, and to solve this reality, repertory is the solution. Because repertory will lead to you to reach at some closure medicine. It will not give you the individual medicine, but it will give you the closure medicine where you can compare and you can find it out. So comparison is required. You arriving at the some group of a small group, from this group to the small group is required, and this is possible only when you have before your hand you have the repertory and Mathematica. So purpose of the repertory is to know definitely what we want to find will simply our work and will greatly limit our labor. So we minimize our labor with the repertory. What we want to find in the repertory is of course the homeopathic remedy. But what is that? What is the homeopathic remedy? The homeopathic remedy is always that it specialty exhibits the morbic symptoms of the actual patient we desire to cure. So homeopathic remedy means the remedy which is individual to the actual patient. It is not the general symptom, it is for the same medicines, but it is the individual patients that we are prescribing. Dr. Jugal Kishore has made a very beautiful remark, the first president for the Central Council of Homeopathy. He remarks regular repertory work is a refresher course in the Materia Medica. It is a frequent companion and helper. Repertory is not just an index, but an extremely useful instrument to know and handle. Repertory does not restrict the Materia Medica, it makes it more available. So your learning will become more better. Your learning will become more better when you make a regular repertorial work. Whenever a patient comes to me, I used to prefer the first go to the repertory and then we have the Materia Medica consultation. So this is you have to develop a habit. It is, and it is also very important. In the classroom, we have the guide, you have the teacher, but in the clinic, you don't have the teacher. But this report is going to help you as a teacher so that you can arrive at a. So it is like a having a guide or teacher just before you in your clinical practice. It keeps us our prejudice in abeyance. So sometimes we may have one medicine in our mind when we see the symptoms, but when we use the repertory characteristic symptoms, our prejudice is lost, is gone. So we get clarified. After all, medicine is never indicated by a single symptom, however peculiar it may be. It helps one to compare polychrist remedy with some peculiar remedy. This is very so. This is the repertory helps to be more objective, come to the clarity, and bring a better understanding when we have the more learning about the medicine. When you come to the medicines and you see that it is the right medicine, but at the same time you also find that there are some differences which makes the very slight differences are there that will change the nature of the whole of the case, and you will may think about the another medicine. So polychrist remedy compared with the substituted remedy, this helps you very important. Like in the fastidious, hard to treat, it has got about 68 remedies. Arsenic, elf, and vanilla aromata are both under the fastidious. Arsenic is fastidious for the insecurity, social presentation, and vanilla fastidious for stimulated brain and sex. So both are fastidious. Vanilla and vanilla is very rare remedy, and you have to see what type of the fastidiousness is there for the vanilla and for the arsenic. So whenever a thoughts you comes to your mind, the arsenic on about the fastidiousness, and you come closer to that, you can get a better understanding. You can get a better selection for the right medicines like that of the vanilla instead of the arsenic. And sympathetic, causticum, we all know, sympathetic for downtrodden and do not tolerate injustice. But carcinosin is more sensitive towards the natural phenomena. But see, the slightest difference makes the difference. So, causticum is said to be the general medicines for the sympathetic person. But we can find it to be the different when we have a better understanding with the. So, the repertory makes you to compare, evaluate, and find out the right medicine between the polychrist medicines and the peculiar medicine. So rare to polychrist. And this repertory has also helped to develop the Materia Medica. Like there are many rare remedies which has been converted to the polychrist remedy. In the earlier phase of development, carcinosin was a rare medicine, but nowadays it occupies the whole of the repertory and it has become the large remedy. In some Metamedica, some medicines appear as rare remedy with few symptoms, but some symptoms are to be found in other Metamedica. So, in one Metamedica you see one symptom, other Metamedica you see one symptom. At that time, the thought comes to your mind that this is a rare remedy. But when you compile, repertory brings you in a compiled form, then you can get understanding that no, it is not a rare remedy. The different proving has been observed and it has been compiled. So the repertory it has been observed that medicine considered to be rare, including large number of symptoms, being gathered from the different source of the Metamedica. This enhances the use of the scope of that medicine. So, when you through the Medica, you can only have a limited understanding, but through the repertory, you can have a wider applicability of the medicine. Rare symptoms of the common medicine. Now, let's see the rare symptoms. Have you heard about the sulfur, which has got 16,831 rupees, and there are many common symptoms. But can you imagine that the anger could tear himself to pieces? The sulfur patient, the rubric is like that. Anger could tear himself to pieces. Dancing ability fall. Drawing talented fall. Hysteria increasing mood weak. Mania philosophical. Head down, drawn downward. Order of the body. Offensive to himself. So these are some of the rare symptoms that you can obtain and you can get and you can observe in the patient, and this will help you at the specification of the common medicines to be applied on the patient. Most of the time when a common medicines comes to our prescription, to our repertorial approach, we feel that it may not be useful. But when you study that medicine in relation to the patient, you can find out many more uncommon symptoms, which maybe you through the repertory you can see that they are present in that medicine. Then contrast symptoms of the same remedy. There are many contrasting symptoms. But if you have learned that the lycopodium has got liking for the sweets only, and you don't uh, have understood that it may have the aversion to the sweet and have also aggravated and ameliorated. So lycopodium is not only that liking, it has the disliking as diversions and amelioration for the sweet. Phosphorus gets ameliorated with formulation, but at the same time, this is aggravated. Arsenic is ameliorated in open air, but also gets aggravated in it. Thuja is ameliorated in sun, but also gets aggravated in it. So these contrasting symptoms are there. Why contrasting symptoms are present? Because the different phases of the human life. At one phase, there is a liking for the sweets. At another phase, the liking, there is a dislike of it. So which phase? But the patient remains the same. The patient remains the same. He is a lycopodium patient, and in one stage, he had a great liking for the sweet. Like a patient coming during the pregnancy, he may develop a hatred for the sweet, but because of the pregnancy or when she was not pregnant, he had a strong liking for the sweet. So this understand, but and this may indicate that this patient is a lycopodium. And similarly, on phosphorus, arsenicum, and you can think about many other medicines where these contrast symptoms are there. And this contrast of symptoms is not present, not to be found in the, you cannot understand through the individual Medica. You have to read a lot of the Medica, and it is not possible to read so many Medica in your life. So, you could find through the repertory, you have many Medica in your hand. You have command on the many more Medica that you might not have heard or listened in your understanding. Then collateral remedies. There are many medicines which run parallel to each other but get differentiated with the minor symptoms. This can be extracted on a comparative way and the minute differences studied between them. So collateral are they run like a railway track, parallel going parallel, and and at one point they cross. That point makes the difference, and a small minor symptoms are there, and with that is treated. And how you can get it? Through the repertory. Yes, through the repertory. This is very difficult to get it from the Materia. Then group of studies of the remedy. One can study in a better way and know the difference between the medicines of the same group. Net from magnesia carry and many groups find representation in repertory and helps to know the difference between the groups. At the same time, single feature of the groups also is also known in a better way. Then comparative study of the remedy. This helps you. It is very important things that you can have. We need to compare because comparison gives you the better clarification. One of the best application of research is to learn medicine by comparing, and distinct image about the medicine is developed. The information about medicines become more precise with the comparison. Friends, the group comparison. We have the medicines produced from the different kingdoms, animal kingdom, plant kingdom, and mineral kingdom. So many kingdoms are there. So what are the differences? And what are the in which patients we have to use the mineral medicines, in which patients we have to use the vegetable medicines. So this is possible. This becomes possible with the report. Then comparison of several remedies. There exists a very close similarity between several homeopathic medicines and need to be compared to create a distinct image of each of them. The repertory includes major and minor symptoms and offer a tool to differentiate between them as they fall under the same rubric. It helps one to get the distinction between them, division between them, which is important that we can. So completion of the portrait of the remedy. In the Materia Medica, many Materia Medica, you don't get the complete portrait of the remedy. And it is very difficult to get a complete portrait of the single remedy. But Repertory is the platform where we can find the configurations of various Materia Medica. So you can get the symptoms from the different symptoms, and it works. It helps as a tools to draw a portrait of the medicine. So Repertory rubrics are helpful in portraying the medicines. Now, complete symptoms. Now, this is very important. The body has made a remarkable contribution in the complete location, sensation, and modalities and concomitant. Now, in some mathematical location is present, but modality is not there. Modality is there, concomitant is not there. But when you come through the repertory, you can get all the things together, and you can make a completeness of the total. You can create a complete symptom by yourself through the repertory, which may not be observed in the repertory. Often all the elements of the symptoms are not found in the sum of the Materia Medica. One has to consult various Materia Medica to complete them. And symptom repertory is a place where one may compile all elements of the symptom. And beneficent therapeutic pocket book is constructed on the theme of the complete symptom. And this is now also available in other Materia Medica like synthesis repertory. Now, grading of the symptom. In repertory, medicines are provided in different grades under the same rubric. It helps to understanding about the characteristic value of the symptom rubric and consequently about the grade of a medicine. Thus, one may find out the importance of medicines over others. Now, this grading is very important. Nowadays, the councils and researches is going on in making this grading system more applicable with the likelihood ratio. The grading has been replaced by the term likelihood ratio. Likelihood ratio represents in which medicines is, and the symptoms they have the more applicability, more clinical provings on the different patients. So, and this grading of the concept of the grading of the symptoms was also of the medicines was also made on the basis of its basis of the proving, clinical proving, reproving, and verifying and confirmation. So these are the basic things that we have to keep in mind when we have when we have to read about each rubric and each symptom. Some symptoms may seem to be very characteristic, but they may not be the very characteristic for that medicine. And it comes only when you have the grading and the understanding of the grading. So this grading is possible. Understand the grading is possible only through the record. Friends, sequential order of the symptoms is also very important. Which symptoms will come after which symptom? So this is called the evaluation of the symptom. And organizing your mind, what is required, you have to see, you make a series of the symptoms that combines together and makes you a feeling about it is like a story. It is creating a story. So organizing mind is essential to retain and retrieve, which can be achieved only by the sequential order. And often mathematics are constructed on some definite plan followed by the author and sequence. And what is mathematics? It is constructed on one plan. Not there are no, you cannot get the right plan. But you can have, we as an individual require the individual plan. We must have the individual plan. So we don't have to rely on the author, because if you may not retain the author's plan, you can retain your own plan. So you have to follow your own plan. You have to create your own plan. This is basic thing that we have to develop. We all have the different way of learning. We all have the different way of understanding. And utilizing these differences, own individuality, you can learn Mathematica in a better way. Then references and guide. So to reach or arrive at ready-made medicines or Mathematica, one requires references of the symptoms of your particular. The confidence building, whether the symptoms is covered under this medicine or not, it gives you the confidence. And this is possible through the repertory. This is only guide to read particular medicine. To swim in the vast ocean of Mathematica, proper navigation system is provided by the repertory. So repertory provides a common platform for the study of the medicine. So how many Mathematica you can read in your life? Among the how many Mathematica available now, the numbers is crossing more than thousands. And you cannot, in your life, you cannot go through each. But repertory is the platform where you can assess any one of the Mathematica that you may not have encountered in your life. This is important thing that you can get from the Mathematica. So friends, to know definitely what we want to find will simplify our work and will greatly limit our labor. You must know what you are actually wanting. What is your desire? Unless you know what you want, you cannot find the remedy. So have a clarity. What is the principle that you are going to follow? Follow the homeopathic principle, single remedy or whatever it may be. But you have to follow, and that will only help you in understand the your path. You have to make your own path. You don't have to be a follower. You have to create your path, your own path, so that you can get a better understanding, perception of your life and your satisfaction. Because in life nothing is there, only your satisfaction. And satisfaction, the natural satisfaction, the real satisfaction comes when you know what you want and what you have understood for your life. So friends, always when you carry it, it is a cheap medicine. So with this, I thank you very much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, you can ask me on risdth@gmail.com, or you can WhatsApp me on 9431020622. Always open to talk to your teacher. Always be a good listener. Always be a good lover of the homeopathy. This will be the pave your path to reach the final destinations of your success in the life. So with this, I thank you, and with this, you can have any questions before me. Thank you very much. friends, now we have completed. You can write me to the, or you may be listening me at the YouTube, and YouTube itself also you can make a comment, and that will be proper. That will be replied individually to each comments that I can see to your on the YouTube. That will be replied properly. But be open to reply, comment, remarks, anything you can do, and be happy in reading this. So with this, I close this session with goodbye and to meet you all again on next Sunday. Thank you very much.